And RCMP Commissioner Mike Duheme is with me now. Commissioner, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Andrew, thanks for having me.
Now, at your swearing-in ceremony, you said the RCMP is moving forward on building a modern, inclusive, and diverse police organization. But the force is also facing a $1.1 billion class action lawsuit for allegedly failing to stop workplace harassment. It's not the only legal action on this that's arisen in recent years. So, since you've taken over as commissioner, what are the specific changes you've made in terms of moving forward with culture change?
So thanks for the question, Andrew. I will highlight that this year the RCMP is celebrating its 150th anniversary. And I'm saying this because it's important to acknowledge our storied past, and let's never forget that and learn from that. And from there, let's see where we're at today and where we want to go. So at the change of command, I did say that we have to work on culture. And the culture part is I'm the leader of this organization, and there's strong expectation that it's a collective effort with every employee that we have in this organization. We have to hold each other accountable to our core values, and I will, if you listen to the change of command, we've renewed our core values, and it is everyone's responsibility to make sure that we adhere to them and we hold people accountable to them. And that's the only way we're going to change. We're 30,000 plus employees in this organization, so it takes a while before you can turn that big ship around. But honestly, it's got to be a collective effort, and that's where we're going to be going.
Okay, and certainly the RCMP culture was a big aspect of the Mass Casualty Commission's work in their final report. Now, last month, the Public Safety Minister, Marco Mendicino, said he had a very direct conversation with you about implementing MCC recommendations. 75 of those do deal with the RCMP and policing, and their call for a fundamental change to the RCMP's management culture. Can you give us an update on implementing some of those specific recommendations?
Yeah, Andrew. So one of the things that came out of the Mass Casualty Commission, one of the recommendations, and one of the shortcomings that we've had as an organization is anytime there was an inquiry or report that came out, we would muster a team up together and address the recommendations and roll them out, change a policy, but then there is lacking the follow-up process that was involved with any review or any recommendations. So we did set up a new unit called Reform and Accountability. That's sole responsibility is really to drive forward the recommendations that have come out from the mass casualty. But not only that, it's also to tie links with other recommendations that were made, other reports that were made, to ensure that we put in place what needs to be put in place, but we also ensure there's a follow-up process built in so that year after year we can review what's been put in place to make sure it's still there.
Okay, so then can you give, I guess, more detail on what your time frame is for these recommendations and how the public's going to know what's actually being implemented and what's being ruled out?
Yeah, so out of the report, Minister Mendicino mentioned 75. There's 52 that directly apply to us in the sense that we can lead on them. There's others that we're involved with, and we will work with other key partners. And the way forward was presented to the Senior Executive Committee of the RCMP last week, and there is a plan to go forward. And I've also committed that as we move forward, we will have an outward-facing website in which the general public can follow and track what we're actually doing.
Now, one of the calls for action from the MCC that got a lot of attention involved the RCMP Act and a suggestion that written directions to the RCMP from the minister should be tabled in Parliament and that there should be more clearly defined roles for the minister and for you as commissioner. Have you and the government talked about putting these measures into practice since that report has come out?
No, we haven't directly talked about these measures, but that's going to be part of the future discussions as we go through the recommendations.
Okay, now another aspect from the commission saying that in their words, the RCMP needs to adopt a policy of admitting its mistakes and being more accountable. Are you committed to that as leader of the force?
Yeah, I am, Andrew, and like I said, I did say during the press conference where I feel sorry for the family in the sense that our role is to ensure the safety of the public, and on that specific day, on a tragic incident, one of the worst in Canadian history, we weren't up to the task.
All right, I want to shift to another matter, which is staffing and recruitment. You've identified that as a top priority. The government has said it wants a modernized process for recruiting. They would like to see more Indigenous and Black officers in uniform. I know that's been part of the government's mandate letter to the RCMP Commissioner. What is your plan for actually making that happen?
So recruiting, Andrew, is a challenge. You've read about it in the newspaper. I'll be honest. There's less and less people interested or attracted to police work, and we have to do a better job at marketing the RCMP and what we have to provide. We have a lot to provide that other organizations don't. We just put together, the commanding officers of each of the province have come together and submitting a proposal on how we can better our recruiting and whatnot. So I'm expecting that next week, and then we can look at a robust plan how we get people in, because I'll be honest with you, we're competing with other law enforcement across the country, and everything from the timeline from the person applies to the organization to they get to depot, that's got to be reviewed as well, because our timeline's a little longer than other police organizations, and we got to be in a competitive market to make sure we get people in, the right people in the door to depot and on the streets.
Well, in the same vein, the Mass Casualty Commission had called, as you know, for a change to officer training, including the closure of that training depot in Regina. Do you have any more to say at this point on the future of that program?
No, I think before you close anything, you have to make sure you have something that's going to be there to replace it. So those are going to be part of discussions, as I mentioned earlier, as we go through the recommendations with public safety and other key partners. They're things that we'll be looking at. All
right. In the time we have left, I want to finish with a couple questions on foreign interference and your recent committee testimony. You said the alleged Chinese policing activity inside Canada has been shut down. Can you update where the overall investigation now stands on that?
Yeah, Andrew, I said early on that we've taken an aggressive approach when this came to our attention. We went to the sites that we identified. We entered, communicated with the community, encouraged community people to come forward and share with us their experience. We do have several investigations on the go, and of course these are on the go, so I'm not at liberty to discuss. But again, we encourage people to come forward and share their experience if they've been victimized.
Okay, one last question for you then. The last federal budget pledged about $50 million over the next 3 years for the RCMP to fight foreign interference. What will that funding be used for, and has it actually rolled out yet?
The funding will be used on many fronts, Andrew. It will be used from increasing capacity for investigators. The analytic portion of any criminal investigation is very important. Updating the secure environment in which we're operating in and whatnot. So it's going to be used on several fronts, and it also touches on the training aspect as well, if my memory serves me right.
Okay, RCMP Commissioner Mike Duheme, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.